What's up everybody, Austin Kruchek here and welcome to another split screen tutorial. Today we're going to be taking a look at nested sequences. Okay, so this is going to be part of a three-part series. The first part is today, nested sequences. Second part is going to be setting up your timeline, and third part is going to be editing in your timeline, all for large split screen videos. So definitely check back for the rest of them. And lastly, I just wanted to thank you guys for checking out the very first how to make a custom split screen video. You guys had a ton of questions. I had a blast answering them, and I think we were really starting to build up a community here. So this is going to be a little bit more of a deeper dive, and actually I wanted to take this opportunity to tell you guys that we're going to be doing a review of your split screen videos. So send them in to the link below. All right guys, that's enough of that. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so getting into it here, as you guys know, I am a sucker for organization, and you can see all of my bins here. One for audio, this is our final audio track. One for our final sequence. I have some grids of custom split screen layouts that I use a lot, so I just have those pre-made and kind of transfer them from project to project. We have our nested sequences sections. These are all of our sequences, and specifically today we're going to be taking a look at the trombones full sequence. So I'm just going to go ahead, double click that and open that up. As you can see, I already have some of our pre-sequences, our first sequences that we're going to be using to fill up with our 1 through 4 trombone players already in there, and those will adjust once we start getting those in. So now we head to our placeholders. So this is my folder where I have pre-built sequences, and we're just going to go into the trombones full screen. So as you can see, this is kind of like a sequence within a sequence, and this is our nest. So we're going to open up our first trombone, second trombone, third trombone, and fourth trombone. Now, if you guys don't know how to create a sequence, you just come up here to File, New, Sequence, and then you can adjust the title here. We can do trombone, trombone, and you can adjust your settings. My settings for this one is specifically 480 by 1080. This will split up our 1920 by 1080 screen into 4 evenly spaced vertical sequences. So what we're going to do now, and actually let's just check this out. I can go into my sequence settings here to show you that these are the actual sequence sizes, and you want to make sure that you're adjusting this within the video panel here within Premiere Pro. If you adjust it for video previews down here where these blue numbers are, you definitely will not be adjusting the sequence size. You'll just be adjusting the preview that you're seeing, and that might cause some confusion later down the line. So let's actually get into it here. We're going to start loading up our performers into the split screens here. Let's go into our video folder. Now we're going to go down to trombone 1. We're just going to double click. This will give you a preview up here, and you can kind of scrub through here if you'd like. But what I'm going to do is just drag this file onto our trombone 1 sequence. Now, at this point, I'm not too worried about the audio of the file. I just want to make sure his framing is good within the sequence size that we have here, the 480 by 1080. So what I'm going to do is literally just double click. I'm going to come up here to my left panel, select Effects Controls, and adjust the scale. So as you can see, we've adjusted it here down, and we're just going to scale it up until we get a nice position. I kind of want to see as much of the trombone and movement in his hand as possible, and then we're just going to move him up just so that we don't have a ton of headroom there. So that looks pretty good to me. And again, we're not focused on the audio at this point. We'll be focused once we get into our second nest here. So this is our first sequence. Now we're just going to double click trombone 2, and we're going to repeat the process. So right here, I'm just going to load trombone 2 in, double click, kind of scale him down a little bit and move him up. We might actually just keep him pretty far up in scale, move him over just because there's a ton of headroom in his video. I think that looks pretty good. We got a little bit of the bell. We might even just move him over a little bit more. All right, that's looking good. So let's go to trombone 3. This is Melissa. We're just going to scale her down. She always sends great videos. I really appreciate that in the editing process because her framing is good, her lighting is good. Everything is just super easy to work with here. So as you can see, not too much shifting that we had to do there. So let's go to trombone 4. This is going to be our bass bone, Jennifer. So let's just load her in here. Now she has a horizontal clip here, so we can't adjust it vertically. We can enlarge it, but I think we just want to keep her center frame here, so we're just going to adjust the Y position here, and that's looking pretty good to me. We just want to see the bell and the slide, so that looks pretty good. I think we'll see how it looks once we drag all of these into our trombones full sequence. So these were our first sequences. We just filled the screens, our 480 by 1080 frame size with our specific trombones, trombone 1, 2, 3, and 4. We can actually go ahead and close out of these sequences right now, and left, as you can see, remember in the beginning there, our very first look was the trombones full sequence, which I have in my nested big band sections here. So basically all I did was just create a full 1920 by 1080 sequence here, and I've loaded in these actual sequences from our placeholders. So actually I'm just going to go ahead and delete these. If you have them set up ahead of time, this will just, allow you to fill the video in and be like ready to rock and roll and edit, and not have to worry about placing them and getting them adjusted to where you would like them to be on the frame. So Jimmy trombone 1 is like left middle here. I just have these set so that I don't have to go back and adjust them later. But what we can do is I will just repeat this process for you and show you step by step here exactly how I would do it. So we're going to create a new sequence here. This is going to be trombones full V2, just because I already have my first version set up there. We're going to go to our editing mode, and let's just select AVC HD 1080p square pixel, click OK. We have a new sequence here. I'm just going to drag this into my nested big band sections here. As you can see, we have this sequence open. We're going to go back to our placeholders folder where we were just at with our full trombone sequences, and we're just going to drag those out. So there's trombone 1, trombone 2, trombone 3, and last but not least, trombone 4 or bass bone. So one thing I like to do here, just so that we don't have to worry about lining these sequences up once we start actually getting our full big band lined up with our 3 different versions of trombones, 3 different versions of saxes, or 3 different versions of trumpets, our rhythm section, our soloist, and any other miscellaneous sequences we might have on our timeline. That's probably going to be about 15 different layers of sequences there. So what we're going to do here is to make that last step pretty easy in lining up everything audio-wise. We're actually going to go to our audio folder and drag in our final audio into this sequence so that we can just line it up into our final video sequence. So what I'm going to do, and this is a little cheat that I like to use just to get everybody lined up. As you can see right here, these are the starting places of the sequences, and that's the beginning of our video since we loaded our video in at the very beginning there. So I'm just going to select all of these, kind of drag them back a little bit, and then what I'm going to do is actually just go to the end, and in our score you can see that all of the trombones are lined up here. So actually we're going to try to line them up as much as possible here with our final audio track, and that is going to save us a ton of time on the back end here. So I'm just guesstimating where this is going to be at. It looks like this is our final note here. So I'm just going to drag this, and we're going to just adjust like microscopically here. So as you can see, I'm just going to drag these a little bit closer, just millisecond by millisecond here, and I'm going to zoom in until I cannot zoom in anymore. That looks like everybody is pretty close to being lined up, and when we go back to the beginning of our timeline here, we're just going to drag these both back out. And that's going to ensure that our videos are playing from the very beginning of the track. So our last thing to do here is to just place our actual sequences within our sequence. So we want to place our trombone 1, 2, 3, and 4. We want to position them correctly within our trombones full sequence, because the trombones full sequence is just going to be one option that we have for editing on the final timeline. So what I'm going to do here, classic layout of a trombone big band is trombone 2, trombone 1, trombone 3, and bass bone or trombone 4. So we're just going to take trombone 2, we're going to position trombone 2 all the way out here to the end. Let's go 240. We're going to take trombone 1, slide him all the way out, just touching ever so slightly there. I think 720 looks good. Let's take our bass bone, go all the way to the far right. Let's go 1680. Last but not least, our trombone 3. That's going to be 1200. And then, as you can see, we can close out our trombone's full V2 timeline here, and then we can take our nested sequence, which was trombone's full V2, drag it out onto our final video timeline. And once I click here, you'll see that everybody is completely lined up playing wise and position wise. So last but not least, if you guys just want to check out one last thing that I like to do to tidy up, kind of clean up some of those little black lines that might be in the middle of our video sequences within our nested sequence here, I'm going to go to my grids and I'm going to go to my 4 vertical split. Let's actually just drag this all the way to the front, because remember, our final audio track is actually going to be housed here as well. So I'm just going to do that right now to solidify our lining up of the rest of our nested sequences once we get them lined up here as we start building out our final timeline. So as you can see, if I zoom in, our audio from our trombone sequence, I'm going to select that, is perfectly lined up with the audio from our final audio, our final mix of the entire tune. So that's just going to ensure us that we're lining up everything correctly. As long as we have the trombones lined up correctly within the trombone's full nested sequence, it will be lined up in our final timeline. And we're just going to repeat that process for the rest of our instrumentation here. And then last but not least, I just dragged out a pre-made 4 split vertical grid. As you can see, it draws in some white lines here. We're using a legacy title for that. We can go over that in step 2 and step 3 of these 3-part series tutorials. But that is how you make a nested sequence for a big band. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining us for part 1 of our 3-part series. Part 1 was nested sequences. If you guys learned a little bit of something today, definitely click the like button and subscribe for parts 2 and 3 coming up. And last but not least, definitely submit your split screen videos for our big review at the end of this 3-part series. That's going to be our bonus 4th video. All right, guys, that's it for me tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Austin Kruchek, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.